Broadcasting from the Hyatt Regency in Seattle, Washington, Solutions Review is on location at the FME User Conference 2025, the peak of data and AI. Brought to you by Safe Software.
We're back, and we have some guests from Locus in New Zealand and Australia. Chris Morris, Hamish Kingsbury, Australia, New Zealand.
Correct. But
although you're both in New Zealand. Yeah. No, we'll get into all that. Well, thanks for being here.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Well, you've traveled quite a ways to be here in Seattle for this event. And that's because you guys are a pretty significant partner for Safe Software down in New Zealand and Australia. Talk a little bit about how that came about, what you're doing down there, a little bit about the relationship.
Well, I guess this year actually we do a bunch of road shows in New Zealand, so we travel around the country, and we worked out that this is actually our 20th year of being resellers of FME. So we have a pretty long history of being involved with Safe, being involved with their product, or products I should say, and we're pretty well known across New Zealand and Australia.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Australia is 5, 6, 10 times the size of New Zealand. So there's, 10 times as many opportunities and as many chances to show off the power of FME over that side of the Tasman, or the ditch, as we call it.
Yep.
And so the company over the years has grown from strength to strength. And we're now kind of the largest reseller in the region.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about what a relationship is with a client and Locus and Safe. So you're resellers of, and so how does it work? How does a deal comes together, and then how do you deliver it? What are some of the engagement points that you do? I mean, I know there's some training, there's some professional services.
It's a good question, because I think over the years we've seen the relationship that perhaps we have with our clients change substantially. And in the early days, we were shipping licenses. We were just selling you software. But over time, that has expanded, considerably. And now, as you kind of mentioned, training courses, and those training courses are growing and becoming more kind of focused in what we're trying to get across. We also offer professional services, and that again has been a really interesting kind of growth story for us. We've gone from doing generic projects and being a kind of project focused to now offering services, something we call Locus Plus, which is much more about joining the customer on their journey as they use FME, being there when they need us and not when we're not. And so that's been a really interesting kind of story for us. I've joined Locus 2 years ago. I've just passed my 2-year anniversary. And in that time, there has been this focus on how can we offer more to our clients? How can we do much more than just licensing? And with Safe, it's really interesting. They're kind of always with us on that journey. So from the early stages of licensing, we involve them with those processes. I like to talk about the smell of an oily rag. So you've kind of got the opportunity. Where's it going to go? By kind of getting Safe involved early, we can then lean on them. Sometimes just talking about pricing and those kind of opportunities, and in other times it's actually getting them involved and getting them talking to our clients.
And so you're both relatively new to as Locus has been growing. I know you've been with them for less than a year.
Yeah, about 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what you saw as the opportunity. I mean, why did you decide to join Locus?
Well, many reasons. I really enjoy getting in there and talking to clients, talking to customers about their problems. And I saw the opportunity that Locus was able to offer me as being a chance to expand on that and to continue to do that and build those relationships, understand the problems and provide meaningful solutions to clients. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, is seeing a solution developed, client happy, and Locus, there's a lot of growth opportunity, and Locus was wanting to push that, and it was an easy opportunity, easy decision. Yeah.
And for me, I've got 25 years background in location technology, so Esri and GIS and so forth, and along that time, FME has kind of always walked along. I wouldn't say that, and nor would you, so that I'm particularly good with FME, but I've certainly seen the power it has to transform businesses, to transform projects. And for me, that kind of shift, not necessarily away from, but that shift from location tech to FME and data in particular has, for me, that was the opportunity. I think, Don's mentioned it, so many times over the last couple of days, but, data is everywhere. The amount of data that we're seeing, that we produce on almost a daily basis, it's just expanding exponentially. And behind it all, you need some way of managing that data, moving it, shifting it, transforming it, and that's where FME is, brilliant.
Well, and that's, I guess, the opportunity. We've spoken to a few other partners in other parts of the world, where I think the sense is that that the kind of classic FME implementation only has so much room. There's only so many opportunities in geospatial, I guess, is the way to think about it. That it was only logical in terms of continuing to grow for SAFE to really start to build a bigger, broader story around how you can use FME in a more mainstream way, I guess.
Oh, you've hit the nail on the head there, and something I'll often say to people, and I'm sure Chris has heard me say it many times before, is there's nothing inherently special about spatial data. It is still a row of information in a table, in a spreadsheet. It's just that spatial data has a location attached to it. That's just an extra field. Fundamentally, at the root, it's no different to sales data, product information, financial data, any other sort of data that an organisation has. So a lot of the same sort of core concepts around using spatial data rather, can be applied to non-spatial parts of an organisation. And FME is a tool that provides that. Thinking of the projects that I'm currently working on, out of the 3 or 4 that I've got going on, only one of them is spatial. Everything else is non-spatial data.
And that's kind of the magic at play here, is that it's really the transformers and the other kind of elements of the FME solution that enables it to go. To your point, I mean, geospatial data is just a field of information. But ultimately, the way the system works doesn't really matter if it's able to connect and transform. Is that how you see it as well? It's that it can I mean, we were talking a little bit earlier about the idea of using it in a workflow, and I know as an operations person, it's practical in any number of rather non-spectacular but necessary business processes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the thing that I've been really impressed with SAFE, I guess, is that the rebrand and I'm not saying change in focus, but the rebrand gave us that opportunity to say we're more than just spatial. And I don't like saying just spatial because that's my background, but we're more than that. And what we are seeing now is that there is this kind of shift that, more organizations are looking at it as the enterprise tool. And certainly that's what we're trying to reflect internally. So I think, there's a saying about, eating your own dog food. And that's what we're looking at the moment. How can we use FME within our own organization to be more efficient, to, generate quotes, to generate documents for our clients. And FME is part of that story. We use HubSpot. It's a great CRM tool, and we're using FME and HubSpot to pull information out and shift it into other applications. And it's it does it in a way that obviously we will understand, which is handy.
But uses tools that we're experienced in.
But nothing whatsoever to do with spatial.
Well, and I remember having this conversation in Bonn a year or more ago around the rebranding and around the idea that they're able to move toward this more broad solution set because ultimately they solved the hardest problem first, which was geospatial. And it gives them a little bit more of an opportunity versus a company that may be extending itself into geospatial, which is not easily done. Is that your sense as well?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think also when you look at alternative products who have kind of moved a little bit in that spatial sense, it's very lightweight. It's kind of coordinates X and Y and so forth. But when
it's been a tack on the side rather than a fundamental idea that the software encompasses.
I totally agree. And I think when you then look at the capabilities of FME with spatial, the numerous transformers, which you can list and I can't, but the numerous transformers that do, focus in on those spatial elements, they're the things that, SAFE continues to do very well in FME. Yeah, does well.
What? So where do you see the opportunities for Locus? I mean, are you going down a vertical path? Are you looking at where you've had success and trying to extend that out in some sort of size of company or line of business? How do you think about the growth plan for Locus?
Well, it's our oyster.
Well, I was going to say, do you want to talk to Australia?
Yeah, and Australia
right.
is...
Move to Australia
yeah.
and conquer.
Yeah, and Australia is very similar to New Zealand, but also very different. And I think I was saying to you earlier in the day that in New Zealand, you do one thing for one organisation, say for the Transport Association. Whereas in Australia, you've got 6, 7 of those transport associations that have similar, if not the exact same problems. The ability to develop a scalable, repeatable process, something that FME is really, really good at, is where you can begin to grow. And it's finding those opportunities. It's talking to the customers, finding out what their problems are, because I've talked to customers and I'll find out that they don't know what their problems are until you ask the right question, until you dive a little bit deeper and you get them thinking, and then all of a sudden they've discovered a problem they didn't know they had, and you can begin to think of a solution involving FME or other tools at your disposal to solve that and fix it for them.
How long does it take to kind of bring somebody through that process of really understanding their project and then bringing them up to speed and kind of and bringing them through? I mean, what does that look like in terms of timing, or is it all?
It's pretty project dependent.
Dependent.
And also client dependent.
Yeah.
Some clients, they use FME already. They're really, really capable. They just need that extra help. And maybe that's a resourcing help. They don't have enough people, or maybe it's an education help. Yeah. So in some cases it doesn't necessarily take that long, but in other cases, you're working on projects for months. It really does depend on the scope of the project and what that organisation is trying to achieve.
And some organisations want to embed FME and the solutions that can provide within their day-to-day workflow. So clients like that, they're going to generally have a strong FME team who might need a little bit of support for some different use cases or some more advanced functionalities. But then you get smaller clients that come in and they've got a discrete problem, or they need help with one smaller piece of work, and that's when you develop a bespoke solution for them.
And is it training? I mean, where do you find the kind of, I don't know, maybe the most opportunity? Is it in kind of the training? Is it professional services? Is it full project management? Or do you think of it that way at all?
Yeah, we do. So, I mean, again, in New Zealand, we've been there for 20 years, right? So we have a pretty wide client base. And in the traditional market, so those of geospatial, it's not saying it's tapped out, but, we work with most of the people that we like to work with. Where we're seeing opportunity is with new markets outside of that traditional GIS space.
Sure.
But also, and I can't believe we've managed to get 10, 15 minutes into this interview without talking about AI. It's,
well,
I know. but it's those opportunities, So it's we couldn't have had this opportunity because we didn't have the technology that enabled the opportunity. And now we start seeing opportunities arise because there's AI, because, data virtualization, which we've seen more about over the last couple of days. Those new opportunities are starting to pop up because the technology is capable to deliver them. So that's why we're kind of moving out of more traditional into more non-traditional spaces, because we've got the capability to, and because we can start to talk in a language that I think those other non-traditional markets understand. And this is this whole kind of enterprise shift. So
I think there's also, especially with the rise of large language models, AI, and all the associated tools, I'm thinking back on projects that I worked on 4 or 5 years ago, that the client at the time was very happy with the outcome. But looking at today's tools and the functionality that we have today, I could go back to that project and I might have got 80% of their data cleaned up, or got 80% of the way of that what they wanted to achieve. But now with today's technologies, rise of AI, things like data virtualization, all this new innovation coming through, I could revisit that project and get them 95, 99, 100% of the way, simply because the technology and the innovation has pushed our ability to achieve outcomes.
Well, so my one of my suppositions is that people are frozen right now in wonder and fear of AI, that they don't know what to do with it, that they know they should be just doing something. I think there's a lot of pressure coming down from the board or senior management that we need an AI strategy, we need to start something right away. But in fairness, most organizations are reasonably sophisticated. They've spent a lot of time building systems prior to all this,
because they wouldn't be where they are if they hadn't invested in that sort of
correct.
Stuff. Yeah.
And so I think there's this sense of two things. One is, do what exactly? Right. What do you want us to do that we're not already doing? And two, what if we do it and something else comes along? Because everything seems to be coming along so fast. Why would we, they're almost frozen in time, because every 6 months there's another aha moment of wonder. And so what advice do you give to folks, or what are you hearing from your customers or your prospects with regard to, do they even know what they want at this point?
So we did a road trip recently. So we drove around part of the South Island, visiting clients, and pretty much everyone we went to, we asked what are you doing with AI? What's your strategy? Where are you? How, what's your approach? And it was, I think, quite a good microcosm for what's going on. And we went from we have no policy, we're not even thinking about it, we're frozen, scared, whatever it is, through to we're just doing what others are doing, through to actually we've developed a really strong AI policy and we're embracing, and there was this complete kind of spectrum of users. But kind of almost getting back to, the point Hamish mentioned earlier, that there are now processes that you can do much faster, that you used to do it in this way and now you do it in this way. And that's not just AI, that's across the board. The rise of Snowflake, MongoDB and, other those, that's a huge shift in how we've approached databases, but we've kind of done it. And so I think that you don't get the opportunity to be frozen, right? You have to be on the track, right?
Right. You can't stay on the sideline. You have to come up with something. So, and that's where you guys step in, right? Do you have some thought leadership around this sort of thing? Are you guys pushing some ideas down the?
I'm a big fan of just giving things a go. What's the worst that can happen? You go down a path, you don't achieve what you want to achieve. But if you look back, what did you learn? You learned a lot about your problem. You learned a lot about technologies out there, and you probably now got a better idea of what the correct direction is to go. So just go out there and give it a go.
It sounds almost glib, but I think it's true, right? So, I think part of the issue is that I don't know what's possible. So, you're an organization, well, what can I do with AI? And so a lot of the stuff we work on at the moment is around that, that demo creation. Hey, you can do this. This is what AI can be used for. This could be what AI can be used for. And actually giving examples of where the technology might make sense for you. It might not be your exact use case, but have you thought you could do that, use AI to do this? And so, a lot of the stuff we're doing at the moment is around that, building demos, showing them to people, asking those questions. Is this going to work for you? Thought leadership, it's not that it's a challenge, but, we've kind of talked about it. Things are changing so fast.
Yeah, right.
By the time you've had the thought, you're probably out of date. So that's why we're kind of trying to focus a little bit more on that example of what you can do and how you could use it.
Yeah, I wonder, honestly, if people truly understand what they have on their hands, I just don't think they understand the raw horsepower that's available right now. And particularly with all the plumbing underneath, like the databases.
I think the thing that I've really noticed, and we've kind of talked about it a lot, is this any AI. Like, that seems such a simple thing. It's just, any AI, it's two words. But actually, if you think about it in the context of FME and what that means for your project, you don't have to decide on ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever it is.
Well, I think that's huge. I think that's huge, that any AI.
Yeah, and taking it back to the whole things are progressing so fast, if you build a process using a tool like FME, and in 6 months' time, the AI model that you need to use changes, well, you haven't wasted any of your time in FME because you've built the logic. You just need to point it to a different... Well, and it's inevitable that
in 6 months it will change. It's inevitable.
Yeah, and you just point it to the new location, and that's...
Well, again, I think, we're going to have to get together again wherever the next peak of data and AI event is going to be, because things are moving so quickly. But I feel on all the conversations I have, I haven't heard anybody. It feels as almost the solutions haven't arrived yet. Like that we're getting there with the technology and certainly what Safe is doing in terms of kind of pushing the capability or the capacity of their software to get into AI-based solutions in the final analysis. But it still feels like the case studies haven't hit. I don't think people can point to, we did this, and because we just haven't been at it long enough. And now a year later or 2 years later, because it just hasn't been around long enough.
Yep.
It's this amazing period of time where we've been gifted this. It's almost like a superpower. And we don't quite know what, we're just flying around the room, kind of bouncing off the walls. We don't really know exactly what we can do with it yet.
Or going through the walls if they're about to,
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think there's, every day there's a new opportunity, there's a new model, there's something out there that changes the way you think about a problem. It's exciting to be on board that journey.
Oh, yeah. Every time a new feature comes out in the software, every time a new AI piece of agent or whatever comes out, it's a new thing to try, a new thing to explore, new opportunity.
So on that, there's the new AI assist in Flow. I've mentioned I'm not like a great FME user, and what I normally do when I get stuck is bug Hamish or bug one of my colleagues.
He's the AI assist.
Well, he's now being replaced. Right?
Well, that's what I keep telling everybody is I'm actually probably not going to have a seat in the next peak event. Yeah. It'll probably just be some hologram. And I'll be asking way better questions, by the way.
I don't know. I think there's always that human touch that AI doesn't do. But the AI assist has again changed the way we kind of we do things. I've only used it for 6 hours. But it's been really good.
Well, I look forward to everything that's going to happen. Best of luck in New Zealand and Australia, and everything that Locus is working on. And hopefully we can catch up again in a year or so, wherever the next peak of data and AI event is. But thanks very much for the time.
Thank you so much.
If your business would like to be featured in a future event, contact us today.